Part 2 from Shelley's The Triumph of Life. And follow in the dance with limbs decayed, seeking to reach the light which leaves them still farther behind and deeper in the shade. But not the less with impotence of will, they wheel with though ghastly shadows interpose, round them and round each other, and fulfil their work, and in the dust from whence they rose, sink and corruption veils them as they lie, and past these performs, wet in those struck to the heart by this sad pageantry. Half to myself I said, and what was this? Whose shape is that within the car? And why, I would have added, is all here in this? But a voice answered life, and I turned and knew, O heaven, have mercy on such wretchedness. And that what I thought was an old root which grew to strange distortion out of the hillside was indeed one of those diluted fruit, and the grass which methought hung so wide and white was but his thin discoloured hair, and that the holes he vainly sought to hide were or had been eyes, if thou canst forbear to join the dance which I have well forborne, said the grim feature of my thought to wear, I will unfold that which to this deep scorn led me and my companions, and relate the progress of the pageant since the morn. If thirst of knowledge shall not then abate, follow it, though even to the night, but I am weary. Then, like one who with the weight of his own words is staggered wearily, he paused, and ere he could resume, I cried, First who art thou before thy memory? I feared love hated, suffered, did, and died, and if the spark with which heaven lit my spirit had been purer nutriment supplied, corruption would not now thus much inherit of what was run through so, and nor this disguise stained that which ought to have disdained to wear. If I had been extinguished, yet there rise a thousand beacons from the spark I bore. And who are those chained to the car, the wise, the great and unforgotten, there who wore mitres and helms and crowns, or wreaths of light, signs of thought's empire over thought? Their lore taught them not this, to know themselves their might could not repress the mystery within, and for the morn of truth they feigned deep night, caught them ere evening. Who is he with chin upon his breast, and hands crossed on his chain, the child of a fierce power he sought to win? The world lost all that did contain of greatness, and its hope destroyed, and more of fame and peace than virtue's self can gain, without the opportunity which bore him on his eagle's pinions to the peak, from which a thousand climbers have before fallen, as Napoleon fell. I felt my cheek alter to see the shadow pass away, whose grasp had left the giant world so weak, that every pigmy kicked it as it lay, and much I grieve to think how power and will in opposition rule our mortal day, and why God made irreconcilable good and the means of good, and for despair I half disdain life, in the eyes of desire to fill. With the spent vision of the times that were and scarce have ceased to be, thou dost behold, said my God, the spoiler spoiled, both fair, Frederick and Paul, Catherine and Leopold and Tory and Ox, demagogues and sage, names which the world thinks always old, for in the battle life and they did rage, she remained conqueror. I was overcome by my own heart alone, which neither age nor tears nor infamy, nor now the tomb could temper to its object. Let them pass, I cried, the world and its mysterious doom is not so much more glorious than it was, that I to worship those who drew new figures on its false and tragic glass, and the old faded figures ever new rise on the bubble, paint them as you may, we have but thrown, as those before us threw, our shadows on it as it passed away, but mark how changed to the triumphal chair the mighty phantoms of an elder day. All that is mortal of great Plato there expiates the joy and woe his master knew not. The star that ruled his doom was far too fair, and life were long. That flower of heaven grew not conquered, that heart by love which gold or pain or age or sloth or slavery could subdue not. And here him walked the twain, the tutor and his pupil whom dominion followed as tame as vulture in a chain. The world was darkened beneath either pinion of him whom from the flock of conquerors Fame singled out for her underbearing minion. The other long outlived both woes and wars, throned in the thoughts of men, still had kept the jealous key of truth's eternal doors. If Bacon's eagle spirit had not leapt like lightning out of darkness, he compelled the proteus shape of nature as it slept, to wake and lead him to caves that held the treasure of the secrets of its reign. See the great bards of elder times who quelled the passions which they sung, and by their strain may well be known their living melody tempers its own contagion through the vein of those who are infected with it. I have suffered what I wrote, or viler pain, and so my words have seeds of misery, even as the deeds of others, not as theirs. And then he pointed them to a symphony, amidst one I quickly recognized the airs of Caesar's crime, from him to Constantine, the anarch chief whose force and murderous snares had founded many a sceptre-bearing line, and spread the plague of gold and blood abroad, and Gregory and John and men divine, who rose like shadows between man and God, till that eclipse still hanging over heaven was worshipped by the world over which they stood. And for the true sun had quenched, their power was given but to destroy, replied the leader. I and whom of those who have created, even if it be but a world of agony, whence camest thou, and whither goest thou? How did thy course begin, I said, and why? Mine eyes are sick of this perpetual flow of people, and my heart sick of one sad thought. Speak, whence I am, I partly seem to know, and how, and by what paths I have been brought. To this dread pass, methinks, even thou mayst guess, why this should be, my mind can compass not. Whither the conqueror hurries me, and still, what follows thou and from spectator turn, actor or victim in this wretchedness? And what thou wouldst be taught, I then may learn from thee. Now listen. In the April prime, when all the forest tips began to burn, with kindling green touch the azure climes of the young season, I was laid asleep under a mountain, which from unknown time, had yawned into a cavern high and deep, and from it came a gentle rivulet, whose water, like clear air in its calm sweep, bent the soft grass and kept forever wet the stems of the sweet flowers, and filled the grove with sounds which whoso hears must needs forget. All pleasure and all pain, all hate and love, which they had known before that hour of rest, the sleeping mother then would dream not of her only child who died upon the breast. At eventide the king would mourn and no more the crown of which his brows were dispossessed. When the sun lingered over his ocean floor, to gild his rival's new prosperity, thou wouldst forget, thus vainly to deplore, ills which if ills can find no cure from thee, the thought of which neither sleep will quell, nor the music brought from memory. So sweet and deep is the oblivious spell, and whether life had been before that sleep the heaven which I imagine, or a hell, like this harsh world in which I wake to weep, I know not.